everybody!
Hi, friends. Well, from beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah,
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
the podcast.
I'm Frank Feldman.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And coming up on the show, we're going to be talking about those protests over in Iraq and a little bit of confusion about them.
Yeah.
It's a confusing story. We're going to get into all the details, but there's some angry people in Iraq about what an Iraqi did in Sweden, and they're taking
mad
it
at
out.
the Swedes.
But they're taking it out on the Swedish embassy.
Boy, don't mention the Swedes to Muqtada al-Sadr right now.
He's very upset.
He has nothing but nasty things to say at this point.
So we'll be getting to that whole story and our general take on it. But first, some news of the week. And boy, Dan, this was a rough week, especially this last couple of days. Brutal.
Only if you're paying attention.
Brutal week in the news. Oh, the Supreme Court is just fucking our lives over, and it is broken.
It is 100% broken.
And so, since a lot of us, most of us are probably feeling pretty upset about that, I decided to come in with some good news. Dan. I thought I would try to cheer everybody up.
Oh, good, because later I'm going to talk about the Supreme Court, and then that'll ruin it.
Well, okay, let's at least get ourselves into sort of a sane and stable state of mind.
Okay.
And just let this wash over you. It is official. U.S. church attendance is still lower than pre-pandemic. Everybody.
Nice.
34% of U.S. adults before the pandemic said that they had attended church, synagogue, mosque, or temple regularly. Post-pandemic, that number's down to 30% of U.S. adults.
Okay.
So
I mean,
that
we
is
kind of
not a small
predicted
drop.
this.
Huh?
We predicted this.
We predicted it.
It was very clear that like for anyone who has been a regular church attendee, when you're given a respite from that, you're not excited to go back.
Well, and the article points out, because they're like, it's unclear as to whether this was just part of the trend that already existed, because church attendance was already going down, but they definitely acknowledge the role that the pandemic had in just pointing out to people how nice it is to not go to church.
And how little they're actually getting from the church experience.
And so it maybe accelerated it for a lot of these people. Like, these are people who maybe would have fallen away, more like this year or next year or in a few more years, right? But a lot of people were just, they got used to it, and they just flat out stopped going, and it's wonderful. If you actually look at the number, 34 down to 30%, and really think about that, they've had an over 10% drop off, right? In church attendance.
That's amazing.
That's pretty cool. Protestants generally are down 44% to 40%. Catholics are down 37% to 30%.
Whoa.
And those are the two largest sample sizes. Everything else is stuff that we kind of already know. This article, Republicans go to church more than Democrats, all that kind of crap.
Shocking.
But I just thought that we needed just a little balm, just something to kind of just make ourselves feel a little bit better about this world and specifically this country that many of us are living in. And just remind yourself, as all of this horror is happening at the top levels of our government, the trend is in our favor long term. But the short term,
may the trends be ever in your favor. Speaking of the horrors, hey, I'm going to talk about that a little bit.
Oh, God damn, why?
Because here's the thing.
I just got everybody into a better state of mind.
But I'm of multiple minds about this. So this is less of a story. This is actually two stories. I'm going to do a tale of two countries. And we're going to compare and contrast. And I don't know where I land on any of this. 100%.
Interesting. Okay.
So the first one is I'll start with our Supreme Court here in these United States, where they ruled in and among all of the disastrous rulings that they did, this is one of the ones that was literally a unanimous vote by the court, which is pretty rare and strange. But let us all remember that even though there's a deep political divide between all of our jurists, they are also all religious believers.
Yeah, that's really weird.
And deeply so. Yeah. So, or at least they profess to be deeply so. So this is a ruling, and we talked about it when it was in the I think when it was in the appellate court, when it had been appealed. This is a letter carrier, a postal service person, who, by the name of Gerald Groff, a former mail carrier who, when the United States Postal Service signed a contract with Amazon to deliver some of Amazon's packages on Sundays, suddenly this guy had to work on Sundays. He's a very religious guy. He says, and didn't want to work on the Lord's day, on his day of rest or whatever.
Right.
And so he quit and then sued because they were making him work on Sundays. And there have been laws since the 70s saying that employers have to do sort of reasonable accommodations for people's religion.
Right. Okay.
But the standard was, since the 70s, the standard has been this, there was a ruling, it was Trans World Airlines versus some Hardison. And it was, basically the ruling was, it was what's called a de minimis standard. The standard being that, if the employer suffers a little bit of hardship, it's okay to deny an accommodation. If there's no hardship suffered, if the employer just doesn't like people to say wear a cross or a Star of David or a headscarf or whatever, but it doesn't actually do any harm to that employer,
right?
Then no. The answer is you have to accommodate it. But if it does some hardship, it doesn't have to be much. Then they don't have to make the accommodation. Well, now, so this ruling just makes, and it's such a dumb, it was written by Samuel Alito, and it was just basically like, literally what he wrote was, I'll just do the quote. "We think it is enough to say that an employer must show that the burden of granting an accommodation would result in substantial increased cost in relation to the conduct of its particular business." That is not a good standard. That is not clear. That is stupid. So now instead of a de minimis standard, it is a substantial standard.
And they all agreed.
They all agreed on this. And a whole bunch of religious, but here's the thing, a whole bunch of religious organizations are very happy about it. And this will mean that, like, a bunch of groups that are very traditionally marginalized and that have very little recourse, like if a Sikh man wants to work in a medical environment, but isn't allowed to shave his beard, sometimes that has been, it's been a no. They haven't been allowed to work there. So this changes that. And I don't know. I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing. People have long been able to discriminate against Muslims, or Sikhs or, Jews who want to take Jewish holidays off, and haven't been allowed to. So I'm not 100% opposed to this. I'm not in favor of it, but I'm not 100% opposed to it. On the flip side, I'm going to take us to France, where France's highest administrative court has now given the okay for sports federations, for their soccer federation, to ban headscarves.
Oh.
Which, to my mind, there's no there's no sporting advantage to wearing a headscarf.
Right.
And there's no disadvantage. There's no reason. It doesn't hurt anybody to have a woman out on the soccer pitch in a headscarf.
Right.
So why is it okay to make that discrimination in the name of a secular society? It doesn't make sense to me. So, but do I also think that maybe that I don't know what I think. I don't think, I think that a French soccer federation should to some extent be allowed to say, hey, this is how everyone has to dress when they're on the field. But it just seems like this is just a way to be a dick to Muslim people.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. Yes, I agree. It seems like a reasonable thing to allow someone to wear something that's, like that. Unless, I mean, I don't know, like, can you overheat?
Well, that's on you then, right?
I mean,
it's up to you to make sure that you're not overheating or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. But as far as like the postal carrier one, like, I mean, when I think about like what ends up happening in these workplaces, though, when these accommodations come along, is that the people who don't have a religious claim of some kind are the ones who end up having to work on Sunday. Right.
Correct.
When that used to be an important family day for them. Right. And who knows, maybe they used to base this whole thing on seniority. Right. Or whatever. They're like, well, Bob's been here 10 years. He gets Sunday off. You just started. You don't. Right. Like,
yeah.
And now all of a sudden it's like this religious concern is going to trump any other way that they used to run this. Right.
And that was the argument made by in amicus briefs by, the American Atheists and other organizations like that.
Yeah. Like the atheists are going to be picking up the slack at these companies. And I don't agree with that. I think that's not right.
I think atheists should start demanding more money when that happens.
Sure.
Look, you don't have somebody else to do this.
Right.
So I want more money.
Right.
To do it.
But all of a sudden this magical belief, right?
Right.
Is more important than just basic fairness in the workplace, because people can have any number of reasons as to why they want or quote unquote need a certain day off. Right.
Yeah.
And if it's the kind of business that's open every day of the week, right? Like how do you set up that hierarchy of who gets what off? And it's just some fucking bullshit that now even just maybe like a simple, hey, we're all just going to rotate. Right.
Yeah.
Well, but Bob is an atheist and he doesn't need this day off. So I get it off and he doesn't.
Yep.
Right. And it's just, fuck.
It's definitely not a cut and dry issue. I think I see points on both sides that make sense. I mean,
as far as like making accommodations for like, what somebody might be wearing in the workplace, like that has, I don't really see how that can end up negatively impacting other employees. Right?
Unless they're an employee of a government agency. Where wearing wearing religious markings could be like, if the person, if I go into a state agency, say, and I'm beholden to them, I'm asking them to, grant me a permit or something, and they're wearing they're wearing a cross and they've got a big sign that says, Lord, Jesus is my partner or whatever. And I want to do, you know what I mean? Like, it could feel intimidating to some people.
I see your point. But that what you just described is something that, like, in this country that we have already allowed, right?
Yeah.
You go to the DMV or whatnot, like, I wouldn't be surprised to see one of the workers behind the desk in a hijab, and it wouldn't bother me.
It wouldn't bother me either. I'm just sort of trying to come up with hypothetical ideas. You know what I mean? DMV is one thing, but like there are people who hold other people's fate in their hands.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like if I saw a judge who was like, if I'm coming before a judge and it's a matter, especially if it's a matter that's to do with religion, you know what I mean? Like if I'm suing the city to take down a religious icon in a city park, for example, and I get in there and the judge is wearing a big old cross, that's going to be concerning to me.
You know what? I'd rather see the fucking cross than not. I'd rather
see it.
Yeah, I'd rather have them publishing what their biases are than sitting there and like formulating sneaky little opinions.
I think that's interesting.
Right?
I like that thinking. I don't know. All I'm getting at is none of this feels easy to me. Nothing feels 100% obvious, like what the right thing is.
Oh, God damn. All right.
It's why we got to get rid of religion altogether. It's just too confusing.
Indeed. Well, I have another story to cheer us up. I figured this was going to be a brutal episode. So,
okay.
But along the lines of just getting rid of religion, boy, the Germans are doing it, Dan. The German Catholic Church has lost 520,000 members last year.
Whoa!
In 1 year, they lost 500,000 people from the Catholic Church.
Wow.
These are people who would have gone down to their local, some kind of official office, a registrar of some kind.
Right.
And gone through the process. This is insane. They have to officially renounce their membership by actively visiting a local register office and paying a €30 administrative fee. You have to pay a fee to no longer be Catholic or Lutheran or whatever, right?
Right.
But by doing that, you get yourself out of basically like a church tax.
Right. You're automatically paying them.
Yeah. If you have declared an affiliation to any number of Protestant, Catholic, or Jewish denominations, this is just automatic. It's about somewhere between 8 and 9% of your income tax is going to that church, which is insane to me.
Yeah, that is a terrible system.
Now they say that the justification of it initially was trying to keep churches independent or independent of political influence. I'm not sure I fully. This is just one quick little throwaway line in this article where maybe it's sort of written to people who would maybe kind of understand what maybe the situation was in the early 1900s when this first emerged in Germany. Like maybe there was something going on with the churches and the state and everything, and this was just some sort of weird compromise or something.
One does see an immediate potential issue with that line of reasoning.
I don't know, but
like putting the payments, making tithing part of your taxation doesn't seem like you're separating that church from the state at that moment. It feels a little like the opposite of that, really.
Yeah, indeed. However, losing 500,000 people in 1 year, they are losing a massive amount of tax revenue, right?
Yeah.
And they're attributing this mass exodus out of the Catholic Church to, the series of child abuse scandals, obviously, accusations of widespread cover-up, obviously, the perceived complicity of Pope Benedict in the whole thing.
The perceived complicity, not the actual, in fact, complicity.
I'm reading from the article, Dan.
I know,
and so this it's obviously been incredibly widespread throughout the Catholic Church. the news of it in Germany hit like a bombshell, and people are just like, fuck, I don't want to be part of that anymore, and they're leaving, and good on them.
Good on them.
Right? Like,
if you are a listener in Germany and you haven't done this yet, I imagine most of our German listeners have already done it, but get on it.
Give yourself a raise for one. And then when I left the Mormon church, I hadn't paid tithing already in quite a while. Right. And I think that's probably pretty typical. Right.
Yeah.
You don't just like pay tithing up to the very end and then resign. Right.
Possible moment. And then
and so like,
I'm out. You're cut off.
Like, it's just got to have a certain special level of satisfaction to like go and resign and know that in that act, you were hurting them. Right. You're taking money from them.
Yeah.
I love it. And not taking money. You're keeping your money and not giving it to them anymore. Love it.
Yeah.
So crazy. Good news. That's good news, Dan.
That is amazing. $500,000. Let's get it up to over 1 million. Let's keep pushing on that one, guys. That's an awesome trend. All right. So here in these United States, I'm bringing us back to the U.S. Congress passes a National Defense Authorization Act. Basically, I think it's every year, and it's usually passed on a bipartisan basis, regardless of, there's a lot of stuff in it. It's way too big. Our military budget in this country is absurd. We're just throwing money away. But there you go. You can't, politicians can't say that they were trying to defund the military because everybody will freak out and they'll lose their jobs. So, but here's the thing, because it passes so easily every year, people sneak shit into it.
Oh no.
And this week there's a guy named Rep. Mike Turner from Ohio who put an interesting thing into it. There is an organization called the Military Religious Freedom Foundation. Now, I don't know this organization well, but basically their goal is to, we have reported a lot about how the U.S. military has a lot of like Christian indoctrination bullshit in it. Mm-hmm. Christians are privileged left and right. You get, if you go to church, you get time off. Otherwise you have to be, doing slave labor on Sunday. And there's all the chaplains. And here's the thing, like people's commanding officers are really inappropriate about proselytizing and pushing their religion onto people that they have power over.
Right.
And that's absolutely not okay. And the Military Religious Freedom Foundation has been organized to combat that.
Nice.
I don't know how well they do. I was reading a thing that Hemant Mehta wrote over on the Friendly Atheist Substack, and he has some objections to that organization and like kind of how they operate sometimes, which is, small organizations can be tricky. Mm-hmm. But that goal is absolutely laudable. And the way that I know that they're doing something right is that what Representative Turner put into this, his amendment, said this. None of the funds authorized to be appropriated by this act or otherwise made available for fiscal year 2024 for the Department of Defense may be used, 1, to communicate with the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, its leadership, or its founder.
Oh my God.
Or 2, to take any action or make any decision as a result of any claim, objection, or protest made by the Military Religious Freedom Foundation.
Call them out by name.
Yeah.
Wow.
Without the authority of the Secretary of Defense.
Wow.
Which is amazing.
Jesus
to take
Christ.
a specific little organization and say, you can't use your email to talk to them. You can't use our phones. Basically they are saying You can't talk to them, and if they bring a problem to your attention, you can't address it.
Jesus Christ.
And that is the state of our country right now. That is literal fascism right there.
That's
I mean, because, regardless of your feelings about the organization, if someone approaches them and says, "Hey, I have a problem. My CEO is really being a jerk and pushing this and this and this." This is who you go to. And
right.
Now a soldier could get in real trouble for contacting them.
Yeah.
And even if they don't get in trouble for contacting them, the military won't be allowed to do anything when they come forward and say, "Hey, you need to stop this." Now, I'm hoping that because it's so specific and calls them out by name, that other organizations will be able to step in.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And do the and take up the
why
work.
not just change their name at that point?
Yeah.
Just
reorganize.
Yeah.
Okay, we're a different organization now.
Cool. Thanks.
Well done.
Nice try.
Now we're the Religious Freedom Foundation of the military.
Wow. Well, yeah, I mean, they must have really been they must have been doing something.
Yeah.
They got attention from some people on that one.
They were a bee in someone's bonnet.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. All right, Dan.
Yeah.
I wanted to do 3 fairly uplifting stories.
That doesn't sound possible.
No, I think I'll let you be the judge, but I think I might have done it.
Amazing.
I don't think it's ever happened before.
No,
Dan.
The trifecta? Are you kidding me? Impossible.
On this show? Let's not. The news not being all bad.
That's astounding.
No, so it's been an effort to find some silver linings, if nothing else.
Yeah.
And obviously, in this country right now, it's hard to get away from the damage that's being wrought by our current Supreme Court. Of course, the big, truly monumental decision that happened recently by them was the overturning of Roe v. Wade last year, right?
Yeah.
The article that I'm pulling up here, though, is talking about us, the nuns, right? And so that's atheists, agnostics, and sort of the generally religiously unaffiliated people in America, and sort of the galvanizing effect that the overturning of Roe v. Wade had on us as a group. And it's really interesting. This article is claiming that the non-religious voters are the new, quote unquote, abortion voters in America. Abortion voters were obviously back in the day people who opposed abortion, right? It was the evangelicals largely mixed in with a bunch of other conservative religious people, but really the evangelicals.
Yeah, I mean, starting with guys like Jerry Falwell and whatever, they literally used that issue as a way of driving people to the polls, as a way of getting people who weren't going to vote out to vote because they were so worried now all of a sudden out of the blue that babies were being murdered.
Well, it looks like, according to the numbers, that the same thing is happening, but now to us on the topic of abortion. And so for the first time, the share of religiously unaffiliated Americans who said that abortion was a critical issue, that number is higher now than the share of white evangelicals who said the same.
Wow.
Apparently 71% of unaffiliated Americans voted for Biden in 2020. We knew that. Maybe not the number, but we knew that it was a big number. And so we already knew that the Democratic Party is starting to wake up and look at us as politically important.
Yeah.
However, the problem with us in general, when you talk politics, is, well, what are we going to like rally around? Well,
Yeah.
like it's hard to get us organized. We don't go to church. That's the thing that the evangelicals sort of had as a major advantage in their push against abortion, was that every Sunday, at least every Sunday, they had everybody together and they could get them riled up, right? And you could organize around sort of the church structure, right? We don't have that, right? So that is a disadvantage. And so it was kind of like, you know, I mean, we've talked about the need for atheists to get involved politically, to run for office, et cetera. But even while saying it, it's like, okay, it's more just sort of like, well, it's important for us to do it. But it never seemed like, well, what's the defining thing? And what's emerging is that the thing that's going to organize us politically is the issue of abortion.
Yeah.
And reclaiming it as a right for all Americans. Yeah, when you look at the numbers, in 2020, 31% of the religiously unaffiliated said that abortion was a very important issue. In 2022, 63%.
I am really, really trying not to say, well, where were you in 2016? If this was so important to you, we knew this was coming and you weren't doing anything.
Right. But Dan.
But it's nice that they're here now.
Right. And then and if you look at white evangelical Protestants, in 2020, the number was 61%. That has dropped down to 54% of people saying that this is an important issue. They're actually seeing a lot of ambivalence now amongst evangelicals about now that they've won, and they're actually starting to see the reality of, oh, wait, that's how this is a healthcare issue, right?
Right.
How this is, that's why you want to protect this right, because, those are situations in which, you know, people can, you know, have their life be threatened because they couldn't end a pregnancy that is non-viable, right?
Right.
So forth and so on. And so now there's a little bit of ambivalence that's formulating over on the right about the topic. The left is being galvanized. And in particular, and this is for me kind of the key takeaway, is that this is the thing for atheists, agnostics, and the rest of the religiously unaffiliated, for us to rally around and to figure out these connections and how to organize as a community and go after this issue. This is an important issue, period. Right. But here is, if nothing else, right, beyond, like, we have the important sort of all the reasons that it's important that abortion be legal, but then we have the added benefit that, like, if we get out and we start being active right now, we're going to be meeting a lot of other atheists, a lot of other agnostics, a lot of other people who are like-minded, and it only good can come from that. So
absolutely. I think that there are other issues that we should be very, very concerned about, the treatment of the LGBTQ
absolutely
community. But yeah, I mean, rally around whatever you got to, just get out and vote, because
and that's my point. Yeah,
it's vital at this point.
Yeah, like this is the thing that has caught everybody's attention, and so great. Let's get some work done.
And I like your point that, like, if nothing else, maybe this will finally get politicians thinking about this voting bloc that they've been basically ignoring.
Yeah. The interesting thing that I think will happen there is the moment that the Democrats start to vocalize, right? They're like, when the list of people that they're working for, and they actually say atheists, right?
Yeah.
When they actually start saying the word, it's going to normalize it. And all of a sudden we're going to start seeing open atheists getting elected in certain districts.
Yeah.
But it's going to take that moment for the party to shift. And we're really close to it. They're going to have to start acknowledging us very, very, very soon.
We almost exist, everybody. Congratulations.
No, I think they're really close. It's going to be very interesting to watch. Oh God, as much as I don't want 2024 to actually come, like it's going to be interesting to watch to see how things are shifting around a little bit.
Yeah.
I think we might actually hear some call outs to us. Maybe not. They're not going to say atheists at first, right? But they're going to say, our non-religious, friends or something, right?
We'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. I am now going to just close us off with a little dessert, a little fun one.
Yeah.
Here in Utah, this is I don't know, what is this? A Karen alert? This is amazing. A Utah family has decided has lost their lawsuit.
Oh no.
They sued Sky Ridge High School.
Where's that?
In Lehigh.
In Lehigh?
Yeah.
Huh, okay.
Lehigh, Utah.
Okay.
Just barely south of Salt Lake City. And apparently, here's the deal. At the end of the school year, a lot of schools get a little lackadaisical about people's attendance and whatever. Because, they've stopped. It's the last week of school. The tests have been taken. The main things have happened. It's now just sort of a little bit of cleanup for, kids that still have something outstanding or whatever. But for the most part, they're not really strict about taking attendance or whatever. So kids aren't always in class, whatever. So the son of this Mormon mom who sued, was not in class. And mom came to pick him up. She couldn't find him anywhere, had the school page him. No word. Turns out he was out in the parking lot getting it on with his girlfriend.
What?
Yeah. Which, they are teenagers. Teenagers will teenage. And so they were fornicating.
Oh.
Which is very against his mom's Mormon religion. They are absolutely adamant that you have to be abstinent. Is that a word? Abstinent? You must abstain.
Abstinent.
From,
sure. Yes.
From sex before marriage. So she sued the school district.
What?
Saying that
her failure as a parent?
If
that's what she sued them for?
If they had forced the kid to be in class, he wouldn't have been having sex with his girlfriend. Oh my God, you're an idiot. So she sued the school. Turns out, no, that is not the school does not have an obligation to ensure that your son isn't boinking his girlfriend out in the parking lot.
Oh my God.
And the lawsuit was dismissed. I just thought that was just. I think that's sort of this is the mark of like ultimate privilege, is when you think, hey, something didn't go the way I want it to, I'm suing someone. And it's just like, no, that's just not at all how any of this works. You don't get to just sue when you don't like what happened. Like a law has to be broken for you to do a lawsuit. But yeah, it's pretty funny. So yes, it turns out that the district's policies were adjudicated to be religiously neutral. And no, you weren't losing any of your rights by your kid doing what kids do.
Oh, that poor kid. Oh, his life is hell.
Well, it's funny. A friend of mine posted online and was like, all you'd have to say to this kid, rather than saying don't ever have premarital sex, say, if you have premarital sex, I will sue someone and it will make the news and you will never hear the end of it. That is a deterrent, my friend. The embarrassment that this kid must be facing right now That's how you deter your kid from having sex.
It still won't work.
Still won't work.
Still will not work.
Yeah.
Teenagers are going to do what they're going to do.
You were a teenager too, Mom. You know.
That's the problem. These parents do know.
Yeah. But they think their generation will be the one that finally stops it. My parenting will be the magic pill that will stop kids from getting horny.
Oh, golly.
Something tells me that this mom could stop me from getting horny. That's Anyway, listen, if you would like to comment on this or any of our stories this week, please feel free to write into us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442. Stick around. There's more show coming up.
Well, Frank,
Dan,
yeah, this is the time on the show when we play a little bit of audio from somebody. It's frequently a preacher. This time, it's a preacher who's related to some famous folks. This is the father of Anna Duggar, who's married to Josh Duggar. I believe they're still married. He's in jail. He's in prison.
Yeah.
But, this is her dad, and his voluminous chin. Anyway, this is Mike Keller, and boy, does he have a really strong take on U.S. history, particularly one of the most horrific parts of our history.
Oh,
and he's got it figured out.
Well,
I think you'll appreciate how much he's got it figured out.
Good.
150 years ago, or 200 years ago, when the blacks were slaves, did they ever go to Washington, D.C. and have a rally 200 years ago to protest against slavery? Did they? No. What did they do? Well, a lot of good people in the plantations would say, hey, it's wintertime. Let us help build a church for you, dear folks. And they loved them and taught them how to read so they can read the Bible. And here's what the blacks did about 150 years ago. They humbled themselves. They prayed. They sought God's face and they turned from their wicked ways. And God made slavery illegal through several white presidents, right? It worked, didn't it? They didn't protest.
How about that?
That's wildly offensive.
It's like you don't realize how much deeper you can dig when you launch with, why didn't enslaved people leave the plantations upon which they were enslaved and go to Washington, D.C. to protest? Like, you think that's about as stupid as you can get.
No, nope, that's not.
Nope, let's just keep on digging. Let's make it worse. Let's make it way, way worse. All those kind white folks at the plantation who said, who made them churches so that they could stay warm in the wintertime.
Oh. No,
oh my gosh.
No, it's really...
I want to know how many times in real life a human trafficking slave, like, I don't even like the term slave owner, because that's a human trafficker is what that is. That is a kidnapper. How many times do you think they actually referred to the enslaved Africans as you dear folks? Let's just help out you dear folks. I just don't think it happened very often. Look at those dear folks
just
out
trying
there.
to unpack this idea of like... That's what ended slavery.
You're right. And
is
it was, and what it was, the real turning point was when the enslaved people themselves humbled themselves.
Yeah.
Because they were so haughty, these enslaved people. And then turned from their wicked ways.
Yeah.
What fucking wicked ways do they even have available to them?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It
was literally like every clause of every sentence was worse than the last one.
There's a part of me that is just almost regretful for ever having heard what you just said. It's so awful.
I've inflicted it on all of you. You all have heard it now. So, sorry.
Oh, golly. All right.
All right. Well, we had some folks write into us and call into us. I'll start with our Patreon Deacon Tim. Thank you for being a patron. Who says, "Hi, Dan and Frank. I love the podcast, and it's one of the things that's keeping me sane while having to negotiate around uber religious family.
Oh.
But recently, I had to attend a funeral at a Catholic church in Palmyra, New York, for an old friend."
Oh,
now,
okay.
The Mormon among you suddenly perked up at the name Palmyra, New York. The rest of you, that doesn't mean anything, but the Mormons, that's an important place. Anyway, Tim goes on, "I haven't set foot in a Catholic church in 20 years, except for funerals, but this one was particularly triggering as the priest made it 95% about conservative religion and 5% about our friend.
Mm-hmm.
That does not shock me in the least. I am amazed that they said anything about your friend, to be honest. So often, the priest doesn't really even know who the person is.
Yeah.
I only contained my rage and didn't walk out for the sake of his older family. I was not in a good place as I was driving away to meet some friends at a bar and toast our old friend. I hit my play button in the car and a new TGIA episode started, which is exactly what I needed. As I was listening, I noticed I was passing the LDS Visitor Center at Hill Cumorah. This is where Joseph Smith pretended he discovered some magic gold in the mountains. With its empty, huge parking lot. It all helped cheer me up, and I thought that you might appreciate that. I think that's hilarious. Yes, nobody goes to Hill Cumorah anymore because they got rid of the pageant.
Yeah. Oh, what a shame. We should have gone.
I know. The Mormons, they ruined everything. Keep your really, really dumb stuff. It's delightful for us.
The dumb stuff was the only good stuff.
That was the best stuff.
But they tore down the visitor center downtown.
Oh, God. And I miss that visitor center because it was awful. This is a visitor center at the Mormon temple. And, the Mormons are pretty slick. And they had a lot of money. But, boy, did they have the stupidest wax figures. They had this, all of these wax sculptures of Moses and Joseph Smith and stuff, and it looked so stupid. It was so great. I loved it.
Indeed.
All right. Well, we've got a voicemail, don't we?
We do, from River, who is calling in with some perspective on the word cult, which we were discussing a couple episodes ago.
Fun. All right, here we go.
Hey, Dan and Frank. It's River from Texas. I was thinking about your discussion about the word cult and its utility. And my perspective on this is that I tend to only use the word cult to say, yes, I grew up in a cult, the Mormon cult, when I'm around people who are already on board. But I have, in conversations with my mother, who is still a believer, I have told her that my experience of the Mormon Church was a cultic experience. It was the experience of being in a cult. And I understand that that was not her experience, that she doesn't understand her experience that way, but I do. And I've found that works pretty well. Again, limited sample size, but I've found that works pretty well. Because I'm not saying that this thing is a cult. I'm saying that the way I experienced it was like a cult. And that's a harder thing to argue with or to take offense at. Anyways, I'm curious to hear what y'all think about that. Take care.
Well, thanks, River. Yeah, I mean, I think it's always a good idea when you're talking about important and very emotional topics with people that you love to use I statements. This is, this is a therapy thing. There's a lot of people, but to say this was my experience, I feel this, this is about, how I had this experience.
Right.
So that totally makes sense to me. I probably still wouldn't use that word with my loved ones, but I might use high demand religion, and say that, it places an undue burden on or set of burdens, and that those burdens are very controlling.
Yeah.
Yeah. A controlling religion. That's interesting.
Yeah. High demand, I think, runs the risk of actually being something that an active Mormon might actually be proud of.
Absolutely.
I think they'd be like,
Absolutely.
yeah, damn straight, this is a high demand religion. And
Yeah.
it's like,
it's hard to be a Mormon. That's why everybody, everyone that leaves, they're only leaving because they're too lazy and they are too, they just can't hack it.
Yeah. So if you want to, that's a good term with Mormons.
Yeah.
They won't hear what you're saying though.
Yeah, that's true. No, you're right. Actually, if you want to be heard, maybe River's idea is the better one.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, Stu also wrote into us. Stu's a friend of the show, somebody that has written in a bunch of times, and is a boomer.
Oh no.
And you and I, Frank, we kind of lit into the boomers a little bit.
I stand by it. I do not regret it.
Anyway, Stu said, I was born in the summer of 1948. I'm a definite boomer. Despite your verbal mistreatment of boomers in your last podcast, I am big enough to admit that the world has not improved in all ways during our adulthood years. As you suggested, here is a prayer to boomers. And this is cute, so I'm going to read it. A boomer prayer. Our Father who art a boomer, hallowed be thy Beatle albums. Thy race was run, thy will was done. Well, that's certainly true. On earth as it was in Congress. Give us this day our daily meds, and forgive us our forgetfulness as we forgive those who keep reminding us you said that already. Lead us not into mouthing stereotypes, and deliver us from anti-boomer tirades. For thine is the mail-in ballot, the early bird special, and the Medicare forever. Amen. If it wasn't boomers trying to take away Medicare from people,
Right.
maybe that would resonate a little differently. But I think that's a very cute thing. Thank you for writing in, Stu. We have some folks to thank.
We do, Dan.
I'm going to start us off.
Oh, nice.
We have a new deacon in the form of Courtney. Thank you so much, Courtney, for your one-time donation. We really appreciate that. And do you have some folks?
I do. I have a new deacon as well over on Patreon by the name of Lon.
Lon.
So thank you to the both of you for...
priesthoods on ye. Well done. Magic powers. Toodly do.
Thanks for supporting the show.
That's the magic word.
If you'd like to join them, please do. Go to our website, thankgodimatheist.com, and click on the support tab. And as always, Dan, we have our top donor to thank, our Lord and Savior, Davis.
More show coming up. Well, Frank.
Dan?
Not unlike your recording studio currently, things are getting hot in Iraq.
Hot. In Iraq.
It's hot. Over to Iraq, where Shiite cleric Muqtada Sadr has had a whole bunch, called on a bunch of followers to storm the Swedish embassy.
Oh, boy.
They're in Baghdad and, briefly occupy it after a guy burned a Quran in Sweden. Now, I was looking, it's funny because what actually happened in Sweden is kind of buried in this article on Religion News Service. It turns out that a man who identified himself in Swedish media as a refugee from Iraq then burned a Quran outside of a mosque in central Stockholm. So, I mean, one can hardly blame the Swedes for this.
It
feels unfair.
First of all, they should have stopped this somehow from happening.
Somehow they should have gotten there before the match was lit.
Second of all, they secretly liked it. So
they enjoyed it. Everyone, we all know that they were sniggering, they were giggling at this thing. Anyway, I wanted to talk about it because I want to boil down what people are specifically actually angry about. Because here's the thing. It's not the book. God doesn't live in your book.
I don't know.
I mean, look, when they're, when the family Quran, the family Bible wears out, when it's in tatters, it's not like they go to heroic lengths to repair it. You get a new Quran.
You don't know, Dan. You don't know. I bet they have it rebound. I bet they put it in a velvet little bag. And
there's a bookbinder on every corner.
Yeah, and put the old Quran next to, so-and-so's remains or whatever.
Yeah. The point to me is that, the important part of any holy book isn't the physical. It should be obvious to everyone. It's not the physical book itself. It is the ideas contained therein.
Yes. Yes, I agree with you as a rational human being completely.
My point in saying that is that it's not the burning of the book that's the issue. The issue is the sort of the synecdoche that the book is for the group, because the act of burning the Quran in front of a mosque is meant to be about declaring displeasure with Islam, or maybe with just that mosque. I don't know. Would you agree with that? I'm trying. You're not giving me your assent on these things.
Well, because I'm thinking it through, and I don't want to just keep derailing you, because I think that's probably where I would be at this point. I think I think, Dan, that there is a perceived sacredness to the text, and so you are desecrating the Quran. You are insulting Allah. You are, Allah is taking offense by what you're doing.
You hurt his feelings.
You hurt Allah's feelings. And
yes,
if we know anything,
he may be omnipotent, he may be omniscient, but he's a sensitive one.
He's also what would it be for, he feels everything.
Yeah,
he feels all the bad emotions.
And we should be clear that this isn't just Muslims. I've literally seen, I like to go to downtown Salt Lake during Mormon General Conference, because the protesters all show up, and I remember one guy who was literally doing his shtick. He's an evangelical protester of the Mormons. He's protesting the Mormons, and he had a Book of Mormon that he had attached to a string, and he was throwing it on the ground and dragging it along the ground and saying, "Look at what I'm doing. I'm desecrating your holy book. If you cared about it, you'd be real mad about this." And then he said, "If you throw my Bible on the ground, I'll tear you to pieces." Like, he was literally saying, I'm doing this thing, but if you did the same thing with my book,
right,
I would threaten violence for that.
Well, I think he's trying to say that his position is superior, right?
Yeah.
He's like, you don't really care about that, right?
Yeah. Which is funny, because obviously Mormons aren't going to throw his Bible on the ground, because that's their Bible too. Right. They also believe in that.
Yeah.
So
I just
weird take.
Yeah. I was just sort of thinking about your point of like people don't go to great lengths to dispose of like old Bibles or Qurans or whatnot. Like they just like, but what do they do? I think like, is there sort of like the American flag? You're supposed to like burn it if it touches the ground, right? Like,
or if it's tattered,
or if it's tattered.
Yeah,
right?
the ceremonial disposal of this thing, if you venerate it,
yeah,
is you're supposed to burn it.
Yeah.
So that's what the flag code says.
Burning stuff can sometimes be a sign of respect for the object.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I mean, I doubt that's what the guy in Sweden was doing, but like,
it depends on your attitude while you're burning it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're, if you're being cool.
I think it's interesting though, Dan, that you approach these things so often from this like point of reason, and you try to project it onto the believers who are just unreasonable, right? You're like, no, this is how you guys should see this.
No. What I'm getting at is the point, to my mind, isn't that this is how they should see it. The point is, I think that what they're offended at is something different than what they would say they're offended at. Yeah. I think what they're actually offended by is that someone is, they feel like their tribe, their group, the thing to which they hold the most precious affiliation,
sure,
is being attacked.
Yes.
And it's not being attacked physically, even though there is a physical manifestation of the attack. Mm-hmm. It's being attacked symbolically.
Right.
But they still feel that attack, and it hurts their feelings.
Of course.
And they don't know what to do about that.
Yeah.
This is not an emotionally mature response. Storming a building full of like administrative workers who then have to clear out and wait for, 3 hours until it's safe to go back in, and then they just go back to work. You've done nothing. You've achieved or accomplished nothing. You're just trying to make yourselves feel better because someone symbolically did a thing and it hurt your feelings. It made you feel weird.
Yeah, they maybe got in a little bit better with Allah, though, too. Like,
okay.
Like Allah's like, oh, okay, good on them. Good on
them. They're making a big show of it.
Yeah, all right.
Look at how mad I am.
Yeah.
I'm the maddest on your behalf. I know that when they burn your book, it makes you real sad.
Uh-huh.
And I am just, look at what I'm going to do. I'm going to run into this building and I'm going to scream a lot. They actually, and this is the height of irony. This is like, I'm sure they couldn't possibly see this, but some of the protesters had a little burning of their own and burned LGBTQ rainbow pride flags.
That doesn't make sense. What were they? How is that a reaction?
They're I think literally it's just, well, I think it's what you said, it's about trying to be above someone. It's about not being bottom of the totem pole. So if someone's going to burn my thing, I'm going to make somebody else feel bad. I'm going to commit the exact same offense to a group that I don't value.
Where do you even get a pride flag in Iraq?
Right? Wait, how did you just had that, you guys. This happened like yesterday. You had an hour to come up with this flag. Well, you just had that.
I mean, maybe Amazon is there. I don't know. Like they just got on Amazon, got a little, they're Prime members, right? Got a really quick delivery of a pride flag. Get it here quick. We have a pride.
Oh my God.
Or maybe there's like a stuff to burn section at like the corner store.
Just
like a protest
symbols
supplies.
That we hate.
Yeah.
You get your lighter there. You get some lighter fluid, and you get there's a American pride flag. There's an American flag. Now they've got Swedish flags. They're too late, but they have them now.
Next time they'll be ready.
They'll know for later. Then they need to stock all of the Scandinavian flags for sure, just to be on the safe side. French flags probably now.
Oh, the French will definitely come up at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so funny how, obviously people think in terms of symbols. That's how humans do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just funny that no one's requiring of any of these people, certainly Muqtada al-Sadr, no one's requiring of him that he sort of parse this out and say what he's actually mad about. Nobody's saying, really break this down for me. Is it the book? What's going on? What are you actually upset about? You know who did this? You know what I mean? All he has to do is go, something to be mad about. Yeah. And then everybody goes, okay, I'll be mad. And then they go and do a thing.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have to explain. And to stop and ask, could you please clarify? Muqtada, could you please clarify? Mukti, come on, buddy. Like, what is it exactly that you're upset about so that we know what we're screaming and shouting and burning stuff
Mukti,
over?
take my hand. Sit down. We need to talk.
I need some direction here. I'm a little confused.
But isn't that what we need in this society? Like the fact, I think this is actually just representative of a lot of sort of, the religious right in the US does this all the time. They don't explain what they're mad about.
They know.
They just yell abortion and everybody goes, blah! And then when the abortion, and then like you said earlier in the show, when the abortions are banned,
yeah,
and women are not getting health care that is vital to them, and people are dying, and people are getting very seriously, their lives are getting very seriously fucked with.
Yeah.
Suddenly they're like, oh, I thought we were just yelling abortion and running around screaming.
Yeah, no.
You mean there's more to it than that?
I think that people all have they don't want to be too specific about what to be angry about because everybody's already angry. Everybody's already disaffected. Everybody's already in this state. And they all have a slightly different take on it. What's important is that the group is angry and that the leaders up there being angry and they rile everybody up. And if it's too specific, I think it falls apart, right? Like, I think a lot of people sort of who are all on board with something, some revolution or whatever, post-revolution, there's a lot of disappointed people who were for the revolution in the first place.
Right.
Right. Like I watched that multi-part documentary on about Iran and the American embassy. I can't remember what it was called. But there were people in there who they all had such different things that they were upset about. And they all formed this revolution together. And then, oh my God, it's the religious guy who's now he's a dick to everybody when there were people who had very different grievances. Right.
Well, I mean, you see that all the time.
Yeah.
When the grievances aren't actually explicitly laid out.
Yeah.
It's certainly easier to rally people.
Yeah. So you think everybody's fighting for their own thing, right?
Yeah.
And
literally, I think a lot of people who went to protest on January 6th saw later the video of the QAnon shaman in his goofy fucking hat. And we're like, I was associated with that guy?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Because when you can't just, nuance is a way harder. Mm-hmm. Like the truth is, that nuance and being specific and doing the actual work of sorting out what you're really upset about and what should be upset about and what you shouldn't. It's messy. It's difficult. The answers aren't easy anymore.
Yeah.
And it's a lot harder, but we need to be holding people to account for what they're actually upset about. If someone's mad, and they're like, well, what about Hunter Biden's laptop? Okay, what about it? Yeah. Sit down and tell me what specifically you have read and seen that you're mad about, or are you just mad about the phrase Hunter Biden's laptop?
Right.
Because if it's just that, it's not enough.
Yeah.
All right, well, go burn a Quran and see who they see if you can get somebody to
recommend that.
maybe you can get someone halfway across the world to storm a building. That's a fascinating effect to have on the world. Talk about a butterfly effect. I burn a Quran over here, and then a bunch of people have to take a half day over in Iraq. That's interesting. Anyway, if you would like to write into us about this or any of the things we've talked about, please feel free to do so. podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Yeah, go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist. Click the like button.
And if you'd like to join one of our members-only lounges, you can do so by going to thankgodimatheist.com/members-only.
Yeah, thanks so much to the Red Rock Hot Club for the use of their fine music.
And thanks to Gordon Johnston for the use of his music.
And thanks to all y'all for tuning in. We sure do appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.